Okay, folks, if you are picking up here, this is the second portion of Word Chapter 3. So this picks up on page WD 3-30. And so if you go to that page, you'll see the images with the green bubbles. And if you move over to page 3-33, we're going to finish this up and we're going to use the wireless document. So if we open up Word and choose Open, I can go here, see my most recently used items. I'm looking for the wireless, not the hardware, the wireless. So if we click on this, it'll take me to my document, and I'm on page 3-33. It says to open up the wireless document in step 1, tan colored box, point to the resume reading button, whatever. Um, Yours are all probably going to be a little bit different than that. That might not actually show up. We want to go to scroll up to display the help from network consulting. So that's what you see on my screen right here. That's the header. Confirm that the ruler and non-printing characters are turned on. So there's your non-printing characters. There's my ruler. We're going to definitely need the ruler. Make it so that you can read it. That's step 5. Step 6 says click to the right of the last E in Cade Blake. So we want to find Cade Blake. So lots of different ways to do this. You could use the find feature. Here's Cade Blake though, right here. I'll just kind of give it to you. It's the paragraph, 2 paragraphs below, help from Norris Blaine Network Consulting. And we want to click to the right of the E in Blake. Press the Tab key, and so if I press Tab, you'll see that an arrow shows up here. And you can kind of see that right here. There's no real arrow, that just means that we press the Tab key. And that tab is going to show up after the word Blake. Many of you use tabs, but most of you don't really know how to control the use of tabs. And so what we want to do is begin to kind of introduce you to some of this. So if you flip over to page 34, type the word senior consultant. And if it's not working properly, just start over. Don't keep doing things if it's not working properly. Step 8 says after you've typed senior consultant, press the enter key. And then type Samuel Iglesias. And then it says, step 9, press the tab key. I did, and there is an arrow there right now, and I can see it right there. Don't press it twice or that's going to mess things up. So I've got Samuel Iglesias, and he's going to become a senior consultant as well. This isn't very readable. It looks kind of ugly, but we're just getting the stuff out there at this point. Beverly Sheffield-McCoy, press the tab key. Notice it's like bumped right up against that thing there. She's going to be a project manager. Again, it looks terrible. Okay? I've typed project manager, but I haven't done anything else. It's really important for you to just kind of keep an eye on this. Okay, so I've got tabs in between these things, and yours might look different than this, and it doesn't really matter. What we want to have is proper keystrokes or control characters or whatever you want to call it here. The bottom of page 34, we want to make sure that the Home tab is selected in the ribbon, and then select the list of consultants along with their titles. So these are the consultants and their titles. So it says on step 2, page 34, and if you aren't, if you're just not working properly, just start over. We're not that far into this. So I'm on step 2 at the bottom of page 34 on the horizontal ruler. So horizontal ruler is the top ruler, the left and right ruler. The ruler on the left is the vertical ruler. We're not going to use that very often at all. So horizontal ruler, and it says click at the 2.5 inch mark. So this is the 2.5 inch mark, just like a ruler. I'm going to click one time, and if you notice in my document, all of those titles are now aligned because that's where our tab stop is located. If you look in the ruler, there is a tiny little line that shows up there now, and that's called the left tab. So you can see that on my screen. So it's right there. If I hover over top of that line, it shows me left tab. And you look at the picture on page 35, you can see that those things line up. This is an important skill for you. Very important skill. You should do this one 10 times because just like that table that we built in the previous video, part 1 of this video, this skill is going to become key for you to be able to make nicely formatted documents. Okay, so now there's a hazard here, so pay really close attention because we're going to do that same thing we did in a letter. We're going to try to remove the spaces in between these lines, right? So there's 3 lines, so we only want to select the first 2, not the third one, just the first 2. And that's step 3 in page 35. Step 4 says we're going to go back up and find that old familiar line and paragraph spacing. And this time, we don't want to change the 1, 2, 3, 4 whatevers. We want to just remove the space after those first 2 paragraphs. Okay, think about it. We didn't choose the 3rd paragraph because that would have made it bump right up into the next paragraph. We only want to get the first 2 to pull those 2 together with the 3rd. And that looks really tight. Solid. Good, nice job. So again, if that's, pause the video, go back. If that didn't work out right, this is an important skill for you to have. Okay, going over to page 36. We want to turn on automatic hyphenation in the document. So we want to go to the Layout tab in the ribbon, and we want to go to the Page Setup group. So Page Setup is on the left-hand side, and there's a hyphenation button there. And if we turn on automatic hyphenation, you'll see things happening in your document. So go back and choose none. And basically, this allows for certain words to be split into 2 with a hyphen added after that. So we want it to be hyphenation automatic, and we're going to save our document. Page 37, we're going to format the document into sections. This is key if you're going to complete this assignment. So pay close attention. So we want to go to the very end of the document. And by going to the end of the document, they mean below the table that you built. So if the control and end keys work, that's awesome. If not, just scroll down to the bottom, go to the end of the table itself, and you can see where my insertion point is blinking right now. In the Page Setup group, on the Layout tab, we want to go to the tiny little breaks button. And this gives you some options for different kind of breaks. So far we've used a page break, and that's available here, but we don't want that one. We want to use a section break next page, which seems like it's the same thing as the page, but I think the use of this is much different. So the section break allows you to change and use different sorts of formatting and all sorts of jazz. So we want to use a section break. Next page, click that, and notice it takes me down to a new page. But you can also see it's got section break listed here if you have your show hide paragraph marks turned on. So now I've got this other page. I'm on page 38, step 1, it says to scroll down, verify the insertion point is at the top of the new page 4. And that's correct. And I could tell that it's page 4 because if I look down here at the bottom, I'm on page 4. Step 2 says click the View tab in the ribbon. Step 3, page 38, says click on the Multiple Pages button. And that allows me to see all 4 pages in kind of a bird's eye view. Now we're going to go to the Layout tab in the ribbon, and we're going to click on the Orientation button. Over here on the left-hand side of the ribbon, we're going to choose Landscape. And notice what happened to that very last page. That page turned into Landscape, and everything else stayed the same. That's because we had the section break next page chosen. So that's the value of using section breaks. So that's a lot of lecture about section breaks, but they're really cool, but they can be very confusing. So remember, simplicity is probably your best friend when you're building documents. So if you're going to get super sophisticated and complicated, that's great. But if you're working with someone else and you're doing things that are sophisticated and complicated, you have to be able to communicate that. So go crazy, but the minute you introduce someone else to the equation, just remember this could get a little silly. So I've worked in an enterprise environment a lot, seen it happen over and over and over. One person with lots of skills creates a document and it's beautiful. And then they either leave their position or somebody else takes over, what have you, and then they can't figure out what in the heck that the person did. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do sophisticated things, you owe it to others to be able to either explain it or to have documented it properly. Page 39. Okay, so we're going to create a smart art graphic, and this is a little bit like PowerPoint almost. And so most of you have seen really fancy PowerPoints that people don't spend a dozen years building. So on page 39, we're going to go through this. So we're going to make sure we're at the top of page 4, and this is the top of page 4. And I think I'm going to, at this point, change the view to a one-page view. And that way I can kind of see, actually, I might even zoom this in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just looking at this last page because that's all that really matters. Go to the Insert tab in the ribbon. And then in the Illustrations group, which is right here, we're looking for the Smart Art. And if you click on the Smart Art, a panel comes up that looks like the one in the book. And in the left, we want to pick Relationships. And then we want to find the converging radial. It's probably going to be down somewhere near the bottom. And it's going to be over on the left. If you hover over top of these, that's going to be the converging radial. So stop this video and you can kind of noodle around in there and see what else is there. But I'm going to keep going and click on OK. And I have my template basically up here. It doesn't really have anything in it, but there it is. And now I can basically click inside of these things. I'm not quite sure why the text pane didn't show up here, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so basically what we want to do is in this very top one, I can click on it and I can type just what it says here in step 1 at the bottom of page 40. Better connectivity. If yours shows up as it does in the book, you can type in the little pane on the left-hand side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let's see here. I'm just going to press the better connectivity. I'm going to click on the, actually I should have put better connectivity here. And in the top one, actually I'm going to click over here on the left one. And I'm going to type hardware upgrades. Okay. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, I think I'll come over here and I'll just type in wireless site survey. Okay, and then I think I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm just going to click once on it and delete it. And now if you are to flip over to page 42, you can see kind of what we've got here. They give you some sizes here. I wouldn't do that. I don't think that that's like normal anyway. I think what's normal is for each of you to find a corner of this document or this image and to drag it so it fills out that page without leaking onto other pages. And just to make it look pretty good. You can adjust these individual little bubbles if you want to and move them around a little bit as well. You can also resize those inner workings of those shapes. But really, you just want to make it take up as much as the page as possible. So use the measurements by going up to the Format tab in the ribbon, but I would just avoid doing that. It's not a normal thing for you to do that. And if you click on one of these borders, you can kind of see what your sizing is. And just by me guessing, I'm pretty close. So make it look good. That's way more important than following instructions at this point, I think. All right, so if I go back to that view and I go to multiple pages, and I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. So check this out. So this is what it kind of looks like on page 43. And mine looks really close to what theirs does. Okay, I'm going to go back to one page. I don't really want this multiple pages. We want to go all the way up to the top of page 1. And I'm going to zoom in more so I can actually see what I'm doing here. And it says on step 2 at the bottom of page 43 to double click on the white space at the bottom of page 1. So that's the bottom of page 1. I double clicked it. And now you can see that there's a header and footer option that shows up here. And this gives me the opportunity to put a footer in based upon where I have clicked. So step 3 on page 44 says type your first and last name and press enter. And then press enter. Takes me down to another line. Step 4 says go to the header and footer group and click the page number button. Page numbers are located over here. And you get a gallery here. They want you to go to current position. And then they want you to choose the accent bar 2. I don't really care which one you pick, but it might be helpful for you to kind of stay with the course at this, or stay with the specific instructions. That way it looks like what you might see in the book. Okay, in the navigation group, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You want to go to the next button, and that's here. And next takes me to the next section. Remember the section break? We have 2 sections. We've got the first section, which is pages 1, 2, and 3, and page 4 is section 2, and that's indicated right here. People don't even pay attention to this. So now we can see that footer in the second section. That's why we use sections. But we want to separate the headers, not the footers. We want to leave the headers the same. But for our purposes, we want to go to the header. So there's a button that says to go to header. So it's going to take me to the header for section 2. Okay. And if you can look in the book in the instructions, or you can just kind of follow along with me. But in the navigation group, it shows that this header is linked to the previous section. So again, there's 2 headers. There's one for pages 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a header for the section 2. Well, we're going to unlink this. And there's no unlink button. This is like a light switch, right? So it says link to previous. And we want to click this button to deselect it. So it's not on anymore. Now it's on. me get rid of this. So, okay, so it's off at this point, and that's important. Okay. So it says to go previous now. So we're going to go to the previous section in the header. And this takes us to section 1. So remember, section 1 is pages 1, 2, and 3. And in the header and footer group, it says to click the header button. So if we go to the header and footer group, we want to go to header, which is over here. Click that. And we're looking for the grid style. So there's blank, blank, Austin, banded. We're just going to go down and find the grid. And there it is. It says to find that grid and click that. And it pre-enters some information there for you. And it gives you a document title and it gives you a date. So we want to type recommendations for the wireless network at the Spruce and Cooper for this document title. Okay, doing it now. Recommendations for the wireless network at Spruce and Cooper. And they don't have the word and, they use an ampersand. So let's do this properly. That'll save me a little bit of space in case they bump together. And on the date, we're going to click on the date, and then notice that there's a little tiny arrow to the right of it. You can just click today. And so it automatically inserts that. And this just happens to be the day. You could pick a different day if you wanted to. Whatever, doesn't really matter. And then you can close the header and footer here. And then let's go to the View tab in the ribbon and click Multiple Pages again. Bird's eye view. And notice I've got a header, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I have a footer, ba-boom, ba-boom, and ba-boom. So these 3 pages are section 1. Section 2 is the last page right here. And section 2, because we utilize the same footer, is listed there. We could turn it off if we wanted to, unlink to previous, but we want to keep it. For the header, we don't want a header. And the reason we don't want a header is because we don't want to spoil our look. Document looks pretty good, and those graphic images will stand out more if there's no header on that last page. So bottom of page 47. So they're saying make sure the document is still zoomed so you can see all 4 pages, just like this. Okay, so now go to the Insert tab in the ribbon, step 2. We want to find Cover Page, which is listed here. This is a magical button. You should remember this. This will save you lots of time. If you click on the cover page, it gives you a bunch of different cover pages that you could use, and you could also go down and pick other choices from office.com. Find something you like. I don't really care. You might want to just stay with the instructions here. They're suggesting that we use grid because that's the style we used before, right? So these things are going to be complementary. So if we go to page 48, click the grid style, it puts in a cover page and adds in another page to our document. Okay, so now we want to go step 6 and make this so that you can actually read it. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, and go back up to that doc here. Okay, so it says the only difference between the title recommendations for wireless network at Spruce and Cooper is you can see that it is the word network has been split in 2, and that's because we hyphenated. So let's go to the Layout tab in the ribbon, step 7. In the Page Setup group, okay, step 8, Page Setup group, click on hyphenations, go to hyphenation options, and then it says hyphenate words in caps. And we're going to remove that checkbox and then choose OK. And now you can see that that title is back to looking pretty decent at this point. Okay, so on the right-hand side, step 10, it says to click on the document subtitle, and we're going to type the words prepared by Eben Wheatley. You could put your own name in there. I don't really care. There. And then below the document title, so this is the document title in the blue over here, it says to draw your reader in, blah, 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 blah. And we're just going to remove that. So I click one time, and then we should be able to just press the delete button. If I click on that, there's no way. If I right click, there's no, actually there is. So if you right click on it, you can just choose to remove it. The third option would be to press the delete key. Let's save our document now. So we haven't spent a ton of time here, but we're going to do one more magic thing here, and we're going to use a theme. So instead of going through your document and doing this manually, this saves so much time. So page 50, we're going to change the theme. So we want to go all the way to the top of the document. So somewhere on your title page, just make sure you've got it there. Doesn't really matter, but on the ribbon, click the Design tab. So we're going to Design. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see the word Themes. And if you click on that, there is a whole bunch of themes that are going to show up here. And you can get more. You can browse for themes down at the very bottom. You can use what's there. But what they're saying is to find the facet theme. They should be alphabetized. And I don't even see the facet theme. Is that there? Oh, yeah, it's up at the top. Okay. It goes Office, Facet, and then Gallery. So it's about the second one in my screen. Again, it doesn't matter. Pick one that you like. But if I click on that facet theme, it changes all of the elements of my document to something that's complementary. So if we do use the tools that I'm showing you, you don't have to go back and redo all this stuff. It just kind of magically changes. So that's another reason to use headers. It's another reason to use headers and footers. Heading styles and headers. Okay. Page 53, preview the report. So we're going to go to the File tab in the ribbon, and we're going to choose on the Print button. We're not going to print this. You can if you want, but here's the Print button. Notice on the right-hand side, there's a little scroll bar. And you can go through, excuse me, and see what each one of these pages is going to look like. And I'm going to go slow. There's my page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so notice at the bottom, though, that says page 4 because the cover page is not included in that page count. Okay, so for the header and footers purposes, that's not a thing. So last thing, if you need to make some changes, obviously go back and do that. Last thing, it shows you about the read mode button. So I'm going to go back, and down here at the bottom, this would be the read mode. And if I click on that, you can get a sense of what this document is going to look like in read mode, and then there's a horizontal scroll bar that goes back and forth. You can also use the arrow keys on your screen. I don't use the read mode hardly at all, so to each his own, I guess. So take a look. If you like it, use it. If you don't, don't. So save your work, and you have now finished the entirety of the Word 3 module for the wireless report. So now you need to upload that into that Dropbox, and let me know if you have questions. And thanks for playing. This one was a little bit shorter, so hopefully that saved you a little bit of grief. All right, folks, thanks a bunch, and onward. We'll learn more about Word 4 soon. Thanks.